You don't apologize for having a bad hair day. Hey, tell. We're recording this. All right, this isn't live. Obviously, I'll point that out during the live show portion of it. How long have you been growing that out?
Since July 2009.
That is amazing. That's just fabulous. How many times have you thought, okay, I'm over it. I just want to cut it?
Twice. Once in August of 2016. I went to my friend's house in Pullman. I hit her up. I was like, yo, I'm bringing the scissors. Like, we got to do this. We got to go. Because I can remember exactly what triggered it. It was so heavy that when I went to go take the trash out, when I tried to tie the drawstring, my hair was so long that it got caught in the trash, like trying to tie the bag up and take it to the dumpster. And I remember texting my friend, like, yo, this is it. Like, I'm ready to go. This is done. Yeah. So I went over there, and then I got scared, chickened out, and then we just trimmed it. We trimmed it about to my shoulders that time.
Okay, all right.
And then again in 2018 or 19 around December, I thought the same thing for a different reason. That was more athletic and sleep based. It was just so long I couldn't even sleep comfortably to tie it up over my head. I couldn't. Even if I put it in a ponytail to try to play basketball, it was still swinging and hitting me in the eye when I was shooting threes. I was like, I'm not functional. And I trimmed it again to that. I've chickened out twice.
Okay. All right. No one's here. All right. I hear you. I can hear people yelling. We don't care about his hair.
People ask me about it literally everywhere I go. Okay, so whether it's conscious or not, I know some people are very curious.
Because just normally you have a hat on or a beanie or something. So I think it's one of the rare times you've not had that on. All right. Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report. It's co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. I should say The Athletic first. The Athletic covers the Seahawks and the co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. His weekly appearance all brought to you by Georgetown Tavern's Beer. The Tavern Beer, I should say. Easy drinking domestic-style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops. Brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery. Michael-Shawn Dugar with us in the Limback Lumber Studios. I mean, a lot has changed since we last talked.
Yeah.
Think about that. When we last talked, you and I were getting into discussion, hey, if they end up trading DK, should they just trade Geno, break it all down? And you and I think, disagreed on that one. And I mean, look what has happened since we last talked. Geno gets traded, DK gets traded, Lockett released, and then they signed Sam Darnold. I mean, in 1 week's time. What, if anything, surprised you the most about what has transpired in the last week?
The compensation for the Geno return, I think. Not that he got moved per se, just because if it came down to money, which it sounds like it did in part, Geno and John Schneider and their new cap guy were never going to be on the same page. That was like the thing I was not sure about this offseason. I thought maybe they would just play it out. If that was the case, that was kind of my prediction, that they just couldn't agree on a number and they play it out. Instead, it was, okay, we can't agree on a number. Let's call Pete. And maybe if Pete didn't answer the phone, maybe Geno's still a Seahawk. Because I do think that was like the one team that would have been attractive to Geno at a like 40 million plus is literally the Las Vegas Raiders, led by Pete Carroll. So to really get only a third round pick and a third round pick in the back of the round too. They didn't even get the Raiders' first third round pick, which is, I mean, I don't forget how many picks difference that is, but still, that's not much. So I was a little surprised they couldn't wiggle a little bit more out of a team like Vegas that does have some draft capital to spare. So other than that, DK, not so much.
Let me just before we move on to DK, do you think though that might be a commentary on how the league views him, that's all they got? Because what if I mean, I'm just speculating here. What if they shopped him to other teams? I mean, when I had Garofalo on last week, and as we're talking about this because we're recording it earlier than Garofalo's live, I don't know what he was going to say, but he did say on last week's show that, listen, several teams have called. He goes, I know one in particular that's called, and I'm assuming that one is the Raiders. So. Right. What if they shopped him to other teams and that was the asking price?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that the league is very low on Geno as a trade acquisition and money. Like that makes perfect sense to me. Just like it seems like the league's not super high on like Sam Darnold, for instance. Teams are pretty wary of like the guy who had the breakout in the system that's not ours type of situation, and that they should be. I think that's actually a good general rule of thumb. Like, okay, what about that situation made that guy be like that? And can we replicate that? It's why like a guy like Zach Bond was smart to maybe just sign back with Philly, because if Zach Bond was not much in New Orleans, he's an all-pro with Philly. Does that mean he's an all-pro, or does that mean he's an all-pro in Philly? That makes sense. That's the math you got to do. Same thing with Geno. Like Geno balled out in years 11, 12, and 13 or whatever in Seattle. It does not mean you, who's a team that needs a quarterback? You give me a team.
Maybe Tennessee.
Cleveland. Yeah, you Cleveland or you Tennessee, that Geno's going to come do that same thing here. And I think the teams are generally kind of, buyer beware on that. That makes perfect sense. I don't even fault them for that. I do think Geno would play well in those other cities we named, but he would play his best in Seattle or with Pete. I think that was it. So, yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if they, shopped him around, but I wouldn't imagine the return being – I wouldn't even imagine he's been interested getting to the point of offering anything worth discussing, to be honest, because of what we're talking about and the contract. I don't know how many teams think that Geno's worth $40 million plus a year. The team that knows him the best doesn't. So it may be hard for another team that doesn't know him that well to feel that way. Those teams are wrong, I would imagine, but I don't fault them for not wanting to. Because if you need a quarterback right now, chances are you have the resources to go get one early in the draft.
We've talked about this before, and I use this term all the time, and people that are watching and listening are going to be tired of saying it. So professional liars. I think everyone that is in this business, especially that runs these teams, they have to be professional liars because they can't tell you guys in particular the truth all the time. It'll backfire on them. But, they were adamant this offseason, especially Mike McDonald was adamant that, no, he's our guy. He is our guy, no doubt about it. From a reporter standpoint, how do you, when you see that and read that, and you ask those questions and you get those answers, how do you navigate that? And then because a couple of weeks later they're trading him.
I believe that Mike McDonald believes everything that he says to us generally. I don't think he's gotten the part of like how to lie quite yet about big things. Maybe whether a guy's ankle is as bad as it sounds, whatever, he can probably fib that up a little bit. But like how he feels about something, he has not gotten to the point, I think, where he could just get up there and tell a big fat lie, particularly when a camera is on. Like maybe he could like in a little scrum off to the side or something like that. But he's on TV with the sponsors in the background. It's go time. That's corporate McDonald right there. And I don't think he's figured out how to totally navigate that. John is actually still struggling with that. He's a little bit better at it, but he still panics. I'll give you an example. I asked him, I said, do you anticipate Tyler Lockett being on the team this year? And John asked me, he looked at me like I asked him which one of his kids was his favorite. He just froze. He panicked. And he later admitted on his radio show that he panicked when he was asked that question because he just didn't know what to say. He knew the answer was, well, hell no, Mike. We've already pre-recorded cutting Tyler Lockett content. But he couldn't say that. And he was just like, he stammered. He was like, I'm not sure. And that was off to the side, not on the podiums. That's why no one's like seen the video of that. But so I can kind of tell when John doesn't believe something when he does. And I do think he believed when he told Mike Florio and Chris Sims that there was no doubt that Geno would be their guy. Because at the time, there probably was not. He didn't meet with Geno's people until like 3 days later. And then Geno and those guys didn't meet again and get the trade request out there until I think like the next Thursday, maybe 9 or 10 days after he said that on camera. So yeah, I believe a lot can change. Like you said, look how much has changed since we last talked. I believe in the NFL, things can change very quickly. Myles Garrett hated Cleveland last week. Now he'll live in Cleveland for the rest of his life. Things can change in a few days.
So DK did not get his wish to go to a warm weather climate.
No, he did not. Maybe he can cuddle with his direct deposit. Notifications.
You know what?
Those would keep me warm.
You know what's going to make him warm, Mike? Is $150 million. That's what's going to make him warm.
Oh yeah, no, that would make me very warm. Yeah, I can cuddle with that. That could buy me a nice winter coat. He's got a girlfriend too. Yeah, cuddle with her and 100. She's like a superstar singer or something like that. You can cuddle with her and $150 million in Pittsburgh. You'll be warm 12 months out the year, my friend. I believe that.
What do you think? What led to it? What led to the trade request and then so quickly to acquiesce?
Yeah, I think anytime the trade gets done that quickly, the team didn't want you either. I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that Seattle needs to Seattle fans got to understand.
Yes.
It's not just DK wanted out of here, and like he just forced their hand.
Mm-hmm.
John's hand doesn't get forced. There have been players better than DK and Geno that have tried to force John Schneider's hand to do something, and he has told them go sit down. Like there's a chain of command in Seattle, and me and Peter at the top. So it's not as if they just had to trade DK because he asked. That's not the case. Same thing with Geno. They didn't have to trade Geno either. Geno did not force their hand. They made some calls and got rid of him. That because they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So it was mutual. Specifically on DK, that was the one thing, Puck, to be honest, I never got a straight answer on asking around. Like some people mentioned the quarterback situation. I think Diana Rossini also reported it. I heard that as well. Like all I heard was quarterback situation. I was like, what does that mean? And no one could give me a straight answer. Did he just not like Geno?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Was there a conflict there?
It doesn't sound like it was Geno specific. Only thing I got concretely was quarterback situation. I don't know. I can't speculate too far on what that means. I also do know that he did want to go to a playoff team and try to win. And that's the part I know that one for sure. He wanted to win, wanted to go to a good team, didn't want to be shipped off like the Patriots or something like that. The weather aside on New England is like, well, they haven't been winning. I know that was part of that. But yeah, that's the one. And you can kind of tell, Puck, even on the national media side, there's not a lot of definitive, this is why DK and the Seahawks divorced. It's just kind of DK axed out, warm weather contender / playoff team, and pay me $30 million.
Yeah, it's just like it would. My immediate reaction, because I agree with you 100%. Like they just don't. You don't make a move. He doesn't come out with the request, and then it's like it's a few days later. He's been dealt. I mean, that has been working. Or they've been working on that for a while, or at least thinking about doing it. And so it just leads me to was there a conflict behind the scenes with him and McDonald? Was there a butting of the heads with him and Schneider? I don't know. I never saw anything other than, the outbursts he would have sometimes on the field or on the sideline, but he always worked hard. He tried hard. He played hard. I never saw him, at least I can't remember anything in the media where he took a shot at anybody. At least I can recall right now.
He's a pretty good teammate in that regard.
He feels like he is.
Puckett, I've thought about this quite a bit because I'm still trying to get a concrete answer, and we'll hear from John Schneider and Mike McDonald eventually. Maybe they can shed some light on it. Probably not. But what I've come back to as of time we're recording this is maybe the simplest answers, or maybe the best answer is just the simplest one. Is like, as frustrated as fans are watching the offense, imagine playing in it. Like. It really could. It may be some other things, but like that could be a driving factor. Like imagine a Seahawks fan on Sunday, how frustrated you are watching this thing. Now imagine you're out there playing in it and it hurts. Like that might be enough to want something new and $150 million.
Yeah. Okay. What about and probably I would assume their unwillingness to do it. I mean, I think if we've discussed this last week too. There's a bunch of different ways you can win in this league. You can spend money on wide receivers. You don't have to spend money on wide receivers. You can spend money on running backs, not run on running backs. You can win a bunch of different ways. Maybe they've just decided to go back to the philosophy that they don't want to spend a bunch of money on that position group anymore. They want to go back to being old school and having the Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse 2.0 group again. Maybe that's what they want to do. And so they are like, listen, it just doesn't make sense if we want to get back to that way of football to pay a wide receiver that much money. I think probably you and I would disagree on that one of that philosophy, but maybe that's their thinking on it.
I see this part of that. They've been in the last few years at the top of the league in some spending that you can see obviously why they would want to maybe overcorrect a little bit. Like for a while there, they were like the number one team in safety spending, like that's, and they cleared the safety salaries. Like that part is not even, I don't have any reporting on that. I can count, right?
Sure.
If you're the top team in safety spending and you're not getting all pro returns on your safeties, maybe we should shed our safety salary. Same thing. They were the number one receiver spending team. I think maybe them, Miami, Philly was up there as well. So, okay, we're spending more than anyone in the league on receivers. We're not getting like an all pro return on this.
Right.
Let's shed that. That makes sense to me. I would agree with that if you're not getting the top of the top. Like if you are going to be the number one in insert spending here, I would want you to be like top 5 in production in that. And if you're not, do something about it. That part economically I can understand.
Do you think there is at all anything to perhaps with McDonald and Schneider now, like there was Pete's guys and then we want Mike's guys. Do you think there's anything maybe to that? And maybe just, we've got to force these guys out because they were loyal to Pete Carroll. But I don't know, just in terms of philosophy and, DK and Geno really just seemed like the last two, like, hardcore Pete Carroll guys. I mean, you got Pete's taking his shirt off at the combine with DK. It's been well documented about the admiration between Pete and Geno. And I'm just wondering could Mike truly get his message across if those two guys were in the building? I bring that up because Danny Kelly circled back to me this week on the show. Remember we made a big deal about, and again, I did. I made a big deal about it, about the posters being taken down.
Yeah, I remember that.
And everybody was like, this is stupid. You people like me are making too big of a deal of it. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll dance with you. I'll make a too big of a deal of it. I know they replaced some of the video boards, but I also thought, listen, you are replacing a lot of history that was made by one particular guy. And if you're a new coach walking into that and you're seeing that, is there some how can I get my message across if all of this is up there and some of these players are still on that team? Again, I may be grasping at straws, probably am, but I'm just wondering if that had anything to do with it.
I think it's just very tough. No matter what, for the new coaches to kind of plant their flag, especially if you don't have a track record. Like if you are a new coach, like new as in this is your first time. I think that's a lot tougher than what Pete's walking into in Vegas right now. I feel like it'll be a lot easier to plant his flag because it's like, look at the credentials, guys. Like, I'm Pete Carroll. I know how to win, so listen to me. And that'll be a much easier sell than last year when Mike McDonald comes in. It's like, I'm Mike McDonald. I believe I know how to win, so listen to me. It's just a little bit different, and I can understand what they did with some of the changes there. I don't think it's about Mike's guys versus Pete's guys because there's an overlap there. If there's a Venn diagram of Mike guys, Pete guys, there's a lot of dudes in the middle that I think DK was in the middle of that. The people that fit both of those. Jay Reed is probably the best example, and that's why he's back. Sure. Like Jay Reed is the through line from Pete to Mike now, and he's the last remaining through line actually. And they see value in that. Like signing Jay Reed at the time they signed Jay Reed was a message to guys like JSN who were taking naps and waking up and all their homies were gone. And he was learning about it on social media. He'd take a nap, wake up, like, dog, what do you mean we cut Tyler? Take another nap. Dog, we traded Geno. Like he was just tweeting through it. Like he was learning in real time.
Yeah, but everybody loves a good nap, Dugar. Everyone loves a good nap.
Yeah, so I think that was a message to some of those guys who, whether they were tweeting about it or not, just wondering, they're in their offseason workouts in their hometown, waking up and learning that their quarterback is gone. You need to let them know you still want to compete, and you can't do it with a team meeting. How do you do it? Well, you bring back Ernest Jones. You bring back a Jay Reed in large part for his leadership. I do think that Jay Reed is an example of how there is an overlap between who is a Pete guy, quote unquote, who is a Mike guy, and keeping those guys is still important to them because it's not like the Lions cleaning house of Matt Patricia guys. Like being a Pete guy is a good thing. Yeah. That you were part of a winning culture. It's not, you're a Lion and you're with Matt Patricia. If you're a Matt Patricia guy, we probably got to get you out the building. That's a little bit different.
All right, offensive line. As we sit here and recording this Thursday morning, they still haven't. I mean, I know they signed one, Jones, who's kind of a swing guy and will be a backup. They haven't addressed the offensive line yet in free agency. And they had all this capital to do so. It has left a lot of people in a frenzy and upset about what they haven't done yet. This has been a problem for a decade of offensive line, especially in the interior. And they are watching guys slip away left and right. And so are you surprised that this has happened? Are you or not? Or did you expect this to happen? Or did you expect them to at least sign one of these guys in free agency?
I expected them to be aggressive at the top. I didn't think they'd be able to bring it home because of their limitations. Usually with guarantee structures. Usually they're just going to guarantee your first year, maybe guarantee your second year for injury on the bigger deals. And then after that, your guaranteed money probably usually runs out, or there's some vesting structures. And some teams are just willing to just push it all the way. I figured that would cost them. They don't really do deals longer than 2 or 3 years for outside free agents. I felt like that was going to eventually cost them. And then what do you know? Will Fries signs for 5 years. The only 5-year deal from an external free agent in the entire league. You know, that's what it took to get that guy. Do I blame John and those guys for not going to 5 years if that's what it came to? Not necessarily, because that is pretty risky in general, whether a guy just broke his leg or not. That guy in particular happens to have broken his leg recently. So 5 years, that's a little tough. So I'm not surprised that they took some swings, which I know they did. But it's just hard when you have those limitations, when you do have that budget, when you are kind of a little bit more responsible. And I mean, Seattle not that attractive as a location currently, but to me, if I'm a free agent, like Drew Dahlman, he was linked to the Bears for quite some time. Even if the Seahawks called, if you're Drew Dahlman, the center that got $42 million, why would you come here over Chicago? I'd go to Chicago.
But that's the Dahlman one thing to me is the most concerning, because you have an obvious need at that position in particular. When you had Clint Kubiak coming out and say we need an elite center. And correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't read one single rumor about a connection between Dahlman and Seattle.
I did not either. I did hear. So for what it's worth, when I was at the combine, it was kind of pretty well known he was going to go to Chicago. So maybe I was just like his agent floating that around or whatever. It seems pretty set in stone. And
we have to also acknowledge this too. They're free agents. They got to decide where they want to go. You can do everything, and Seattle could have offered him everything. And to your point, you just brought up, Dahlman could have just said, once I hit free agency, I'm going to Chicago, because I don't know. I've always wanted to play for the Bears. I grew up being a Bears fan. My family's from there. I want to go play there.
Yeah, or I want to go play for Ben Johnson. Like Ben's a very attractive head coach to a lot of offensive players right now, because, I mean, the Lions games are on national TV these days, and people see that. They see that O-line. They see the other moves that they're making over there. By the time Drew signed, they had traded for Joe Thuney and traded for Jonah Jackson. So that they're making a commitment to the line there. So, I mean, we're speaking for Drew, but these are the things that go. Sure. This is what happens with free agents. I've talked to guys before their free agency or after it. This is what they think about. Sometimes other teams just don't have a chance unless you throw a boatload of money. Right. You double it or something like that, or you're in a specific city, Miami, LA, depending on where the person is from. But yeah, Texas, depending on where that person is from. But sometimes teams just don't have a chance. And that's not, we never really know in some instances, but that's not John's fault, particularly with the setup of the team right now. Like, maybe that part is John's fault. But, sometimes it doesn't matter. Geno or DK here or not, they've lost out on free agents for one reason or another. So I don't think it's totally that.
But this narrative now is out there. It's to a point of almost reality. They are once again asleep at the wheel in free agency and improving this offensive line. And now we're, what if they like the guys they already have? Okay, I mean, the guy, who do they like internally that they think is going to be better in this system? If I hear another person tweet out about Jalen Sundell. You mean an undrafted rookie free agent that never started a game? You're telling me that's the okay? I'll sit back and watch. That's the answer at starting center.
Yeah, I mean it could be, but that's tough. If anything, you can maybe sell me Olu, because Olu is very smart, and if you do, the part of the reason that Clint believes you need such a good center. It's an athletic thing as well, but it's also a mind thing, because the center is in charge. He's the quarterback. And I don't think that mattered as much with Geno, because Geno's also very smart and can handle all that. I don't know Sam as well, whether he handles the pre-line stuff. So maybe you can get by with Olu in that regard. I don't know. I don't think you could just roll out the guards you have or just count on a rookie and expect success. I don't know how you could forget watching Geno's play. I don't know how you could watch Sam's last game that we've all seen Sam play and say, let's just develop the guys we have, maybe take a rookie, and Sam will be okay. That is stupid. That's ignorant. I don't care how highly you think of Christian Haynes, Saltawa, Anthony Bradford. They might even be fine players. I would cross my fingers on Haynes maybe of the group in this scheme. But you just can't watch Sam's last game and not go all in on trying to fix that. all into a point, I guess I should say, because I can understand the 5-year thing being a holdup on Will Fries.
Yeah,
outside of that, you just can't watch that. That Sam was back there getting his ass kicked right up the gut. You got to do something about that, because that'll be your fate, Seattle, if you don't do something different. You see what Minnesota did after that.
Yeah, for sure. They just that's all they did was improve their offensive line, especially in the middle. What did you make of
D-line too?
Yeah, D-line. What did you make of the Sam Darnold signing? Yes, like it? No?
No, I don't like it because of the infrastructure that he's coming into. If the Dolphins had signed Sam Darnold, I'd be like, oh, okay. I can see that. The weapons you got, the scheme, whatever, I could see that.
So it's not necessarily the player, it's the situation he's coming into.
Yeah, because honestly, Puck, once you get outside of like the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks, scheme and support is everything. Okay. That includes like even a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not scheme proof. There were some schemes where he would look like Sam Darnold because he has deficiencies as a quarterback, particularly as a passer, which is really alarming. And we see that even in the scheme he's in. His own guys complained about his passing.
Do you like the deal though? Because it's not like they committed a bunch of money to him or years. I mean, it's pretty friendly.
Nah, I don't think the deal matters. I think that cost effectiveness only matters around now. But if Sam has a bad game, no one's going to care that he's on a bridge quarterback. They're going to be angry that he threw a pick. They're going to be angry that he took sacks. The same thing with Geno.
But
Geno was on team-friendly deals, Puck, and it didn't stop nobody from criticizing him in the red zone.
But that's fans, though, from like an organizational standpoint. If it doesn't work out, what did they lose?
If it doesn't work out, it'll probably be A, because they didn't support him well, and B, because they downgraded at quarterback. 2 active decisions that I'm like, all right, well, I just don't trust you guys anymore. Because I do trust Sam to, like, the best of Sam. And I watched some Sam film over the last, week. The best of Sam, Puck, is really, really, really good. It's really good. His best throws, like him on the move, he can move really well. Great athlete, throws on the run, great. It looks great. But what it takes to get that out of him, I don't believe in Seattle to deliver. And I think Geno was making something out of nothing more than people realize. And Sam did a lot of nothing towards the end with a whole lot of something around him. And now you're just flip-flopping. And I think that's the worst thing you could possibly do, is take someone who needs a lot of support and put him in Seattle. Seattle's been one of the least QB-friendly situations for quite some time. It quite literally drove the last quarterback out of here. Is that the perception that they were not quarterback friendly with their scheme and their O-line? And now you're dropping Sam in that. I just don't see that going well without investing a lot more.
But it seems
in
like
what's around Sam.
But it seems like at least this system is very quarterback friendly. At least that's the perception of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. From the line of scrimmage stuff, with the quarterback traditionally does not do. So that's part of it. You just kind of get him to play fast and not think. You're getting a lot of play action. Sam was one of the highest play action quarterbacks in the league last year. He and Derek Carr, I think, were right there in the top 10. So that makes sense with Clint Kubiak. The scheme is quarterback friendly for sure. That's how you can see Spencer Rattler throwing bombs to Marquez Valdez-Scantling in week 12 or whatever. Anyone can operate in theory, but that's for like a game or two. It can also be shut down. I've seen this scheme just not be able to move the ball, have games with 3 points, 6 points, routinely, multiple teams. Even just look at Clint Kubiak's Saints last year. Everyone points to their injuries happening in week 4 or whatever. Go watch week 3. They couldn't move the ball on the Eagles. I think they scored 12 points, and that was with everyone healthy at home. Before the Eagles defense really turned it around. That scheme can be stopped if you don't got the Jimmies and Joes. And I don't consider Sam one of those Jimmies and Joes. I think he's a decent player. But also the worst of Sam is worse than anything we've ever seen from Geno. The worst of Sam is bad, real bad. And it's kind of like what we saw in that playoff game. And I'm afraid that the Seattle's infrastructure will lead to more of that than his Green Bay game in week 16, which was really good.
DeMarcus Lawrence, what do you make of it? I like it. I think it's a good deal. I think there's a high upside to it. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm. First off, kudos to his agent. $18 million guaranteed. 33 years old, broken foot. Bravo, my man. Bravo. That is quite a bit of guarantees. I like to see the structure of it, but really, without seeing the structure, it really just looks like a 2-year, $18 million deal,
exactly.
2-year, $20 million deal. Yeah. Which, go look at how much edge rushers get paid. I think the 25th highest paid outside linebacker right now, I think makes $13 million.
Yeah.
Like it's such a bargain even at that age. And I think if guys can be a pass rush specialist until like, I watched Dwight Freeney have a game in Seattle with like 3 sacks at age 37. So, I mean, I think pass rush specialist guy can be 32, 33. So I liked it. Make a strength stronger without putting too much of a burden on DeMarcus Lawrence. You don't need him to get 10 sacks because you have Chenna, you got Boye, you got D Hall, you got Leonard Williams. Like, you have other guys. He's just another dude in your rotation at a price that relative to his position is fine. And I think he's still good. I think he just broke his foot, broken bones heal. I guess you could say the same about Will Fries too, but
yeah, he was good before he got hurt. He put up some good numbers.
He was great before he got hurt.
Yeah, and he's good against the run. All right, we've taken up a lot of your time. I know that the Seahawks having a press conference later today, so we'll be following you there on social media. Follow them there at what's it? Mike Dugar. I was going to say Michael-Shawn Dugar on Twitter, but it's just Mike Dugar.
Nah, that'd be too long. I shortened it.
Yeah, it's good. Mike Dugar there on Twitter. Also, follow him there at The Athletic and read all of his work up there. He's got a ton of stuff every single day. By the way, your guys' site at The Athletic is the single best site of tracking free agents. It's amazing. It's so good. Man. It is. I mean, it is up to date. It is perfect. I mean, the second someone signs, it's immediately updated. It's terrific. So kudos to whoever put that together. And of course, you can listen and watch Mike along with our guy Chris Kidd, co-host of the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. His weekly visit brought to you by Georgetown Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops. You can find this episode up on YouTube, also part of the daily puck drop on your favorite podcast platforms. All right, Mike, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, sir.
All right, man. Go Cougs.
Yeah, go Cougs.